He was alone in his apartment, sitting silently with the city buzzing outside, when his phone rang. The name on the screen, Sandra Bullock. He hadn't heard from her in years, and what she said next would change Keanu Reeves's life forever. Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, two names that instantly bring to mind some of Hollywood's most memorable moments. Their undeniable chemistry in the 1994 blockbuster Speed captivated audiences worldwide, creating a cinematic magic that felt both natural and electrifying. Fans rooted for their on-screen partnership, but beyond the bright lights and rolling cameras, there was something more subtle, more profound. A quiet connection between two souls who admired each other deeply, even if it never fully blossomed into what the world might have expected. After the success of Speed, Keanu and Sandra's friendship remained intact. They shared laughs, memories, and the rare kind of understanding that only those who've spent long hours working side by side can truly appreciate. But life, as it often does, moved at a dizzying pace. Both their careers skyrocketed, and the demands of fame and fortune pulled them in different directions. While they occasionally crossed paths at industry events or award shows, the closeness they once shared gradually gave way to polite nods and distant waves. What was once a thriving friendship slowly became a memory overshadowed by the whirlwind of Hollywood's unforgiving schedule. Behind the scenes, however, the story was far from simple. Keanu Reeves was, and still is, a man of remarkable depth. Known for his humility, kindness, and a somewhat mysterious private nature, he carried with him a quiet pain that few fully understood. The tragic loss of his daughter and the heartbreaking passing of his partner left scars that time could never completely heal. Yet Keanu never let these sorrows consume him. Instead, he moved forward with grace, choosing to pour his heart into his work and the small acts of generosity that earned him a reputation as one of the kindest stars in the industry. Sandra, too, faced her share of trials and triumphs. As she stepped into motherhood and embraced a quieter life away from the relentless glare of the spotlight, she found fulfillment beyond the silver screen. Yet, beneath her strong exterior, she often thought about the people who had left a lasting mark on her life, Keanu being one of the most significant. Though both lived vastly different lives in many ways, there was always an unspoken thread connecting them, a shared history that neither had quite forgotten. It wasn't just about the past either. There was a lingering question, a curiosity about what might have been, or what still could be. In interviews over the years, both Keanu and Sandra dropped subtle hints about their feelings for each other. Sandra once revealed she had a crush on Keanu while filming Speed, a confession that surprised many but felt genuine to those who followed their story. Shortly after, Keanu echoed similar sentiments, admitting he too had felt something special but never acted on it. Their honesty sparked renewed interest among fans and media alike, fueling endless speculation about a possible romance that never came to be. Yet, the truth was more nuanced. It wasn't just timing or circumstance that kept them apart. It was the complexity of their own lives, their personal journeys filled with heartbreak, healing, and growth. Both were cautious, guarded even, in ways shaped by their past experiences. Their bond, while deep and meaningful, existed quietly in the background, a connection that neither rushed to define or force. For Keanu, the silence sometimes weighed heavily. Despite his public persona of calm and composure, he often wrestled with feelings of loneliness and longing. After years of dedicating himself to his craft and helping others, there remained a part of him yearning for something more: connection, understanding, and perhaps reconciliation with those from his past. Sandra's life had similarly been a balancing act. She cherished her children and her privacy, choosing to shield them from the frenzy of celebrity culture. Yet, in moments of solitude, she would think back to the time spent with Keanu, the laughter shared, the dreams whispered, and the unspoken affection that had lingered beneath the surface. Their lives might have diverged, but the silent thread remained, a reminder that sometimes relationships don't follow the expected path. Sometimes they exist quietly, waiting for the right moment to be rekindled. That moment came unexpectedly. Years after Speed, After both had faced their own personal trials and embraced new chapters, a single phone call bridged the distance that time and circumstance had created. It was Sandra who reached out, surprising Keanu in the middle of a routine day. The voice on the other end was familiar, yet filled with emotion, a mixture of nervousness and hope. Their conversation started softly, tentative at first, but quickly blossomed into an open and honest exchange. They spoke of the past, of missed opportunities, regrets, and the heavy burdens they both carried silently for so long. More importantly, they talked about forgiveness, healing, and the possibility of starting anew, not necessarily as a couple, but as two people who had always meant something to each other. That call was transformative for Keanu. It reminded him that life's most important connections don't always need grand gestures or public declarations. Sometimes a simple conversation, filled with sincerity and care, can shift the course of a person's entire life. Inspired by their renewed friendship, Keanu began to open up more, to friends, family, and even himself. He embraced vulnerability in a way he hadn't before, allowing himself to feel deeply while continuing to give generously to others. Sandra's unexpected gesture reminded him, and all who hear this story, that it's never too late to reconnect, to heal old wounds, and to cherish the people who truly matter. Today, Keanu and Sandra remain close friends, their bond stronger than ever. Their story is a beautiful testament to the power of timing, patience, and the enduring nature of genuine human connection. It teaches us that even when life pulls us apart, love and friendship can find their way back, sometimes through the smallest, most surprising acts. And so, the tale of Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock is not just about a blockbuster movie or a missed romance. It's about two people who, despite the odds, never stopped caring. It's about hope, second chances, and the quiet magic that happens when two hearts finally find their way home. It had been many years since Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock had last spoken. Despite their high-profile careers and the public fascination with their every move, both of them had managed to keep large parts of their lives surprisingly private. Sandra, after years of dazzling audiences with her performances, had chosen to step away from the relentless spotlight, focusing instead on building a family. She adopted children and dedicated herself to motherhood, finding fulfillment in the quieter, more personal side of life that fame rarely allowed. Keanu, on the other hand, continued to star in blockbuster films, from the Matrix sequels to the adrenaline-fueled John Wick series. Yet when the cameras stopped rolling, he often returned to an apartment filled with solitude. Behind the scenes, the contrast between their public personas and their private realities was striking. Keanu was beloved not only for his talent but for his gentle kindness and humility. But those closest to him knew that beneath his calm exterior lay a man marked by profound loss. The passing of his infant daughter had shattered his world in ways no words could fully capture. Then, the death of his partner deepened that wound, leaving a permanent scar etched deep in his heart. Even as his career soared, and accolades and adoration came his way, Keanu carried a quiet sadness, a weight of grief and longing that was rarely visible to the outside world. There was also a lingering sense of time slipping by, precious moments, conversations, and feelings left unspoken. Among those unspoken things, quietly nestled in the corners of his heart, was a name that surfaced often: Sandra. The memories of their time together on Speed and the subtle, unexpressed feelings that had simmered beneath the surface haunted him in ways he had never fully admitted, even to himself. The public and media had long speculated about their relationship. Fans whispered about the chemistry they shared on screen, hoping it might have translated into something deeper off-screen. Over the years, interviews offered small hints, like puzzle pieces waiting to be connected. Sandra once admitted, in a candid moment, that she had a crush on Keanu while filming Speed. This confession made headlines and sparked a wave of renewed interest in their story. A few weeks later, Keanu opened up about his own feelings during that time, revealing he, too, had felt something special for Sandra. But by then, the possibility of a relationship had faded into a sweet, bittersweet what if. Life had moved on for both of them, shaped by its unpredictable twists and turns. They had grown, endured, and changed, each carrying the memories of what might have been but never dwelling too long on the past. And yet, in the quiet moments, the unspoken connection between them remained. Then, one day, everything changed with a single phone call. Keanu was in the middle of a routine day, perhaps sitting quietly in his home or on a break between shoots, when his phone rang. The name flashing on the screen was one he hadn't expected to see in a long time: Sandra Bullock. His heart skipped a beat. For a moment, hesitation held him back, unsure whether to answer, fearing it might be a coincidence or something else entirely. But curiosity and something deeper urged him to pick up. When he answered, the voice on the other end was familiar, warm, and filled with a mixture of nervousness and hope. Sandra began by acknowledging how long it had been since they last spoke, how life had taken them on separate paths. The years of silence had left questions hanging in the air, and now she wanted to bridge the distance. Their conversation flowed naturally, filled with laughter, memories, and moments of vulnerability. They spoke about the early days on speed, the bond that had quietly grown between them, and the unspoken feelings they had both harbored but never acted upon. It was a chance to share what had remained locked away for so long, a moment of honesty that brought them closer than ever before. Sandra confessed that she had watched an interview where Keanu spoke openly about regrets and missed opportunities in his life. That interview had touched her deeply, making her realize how much she had missed not only his friendship, but the chance to explore something more. Keanu, in turn, shared his own reflections on the years they had lost, the pain he had carried, and the hope that perhaps it wasn't too late to reconnect. What started as a tentative call turned into hours of heartfelt conversation. They discussed their lives, the challenges, the losses, and the moments of joy that had shaped them. They found comfort in the fact that, despite everything, their bond had endured, even if it had transformed over time. There was no rush to define their relationship, no pressure to rewrite their story as a romance. Instead, it was about healing old wounds and embracing the possibility of a renewed connection. For Keanu, that call lifted a weight he hadn't fully realized he was carrying. The quiet longing and regret gave way to hope and the promise of something new. In the days and weeks that followed, Keanu found himself more open to reaching out to others and embracing the people in his life. The call reminded him that life's most precious moments are often about the connections we nurture and the courage it takes to mend what was once broken. Sandra and Keanu's story is a powerful reminder that it's never too late to reconnect with someone who has meant a great deal to us. It's a testament to the enduring nature of friendship, love, and forgiveness. Even when time and circumstance seem to pull us apart, their renewed bond, strengthened by honesty and mutual respect, continues to inspire fans around the world. It shows that beneath the glitz and glamour of Hollywood lies something far more real. Two human beings finding their way back to each other, one conversation at a time. Keanu was going through a difficult patch. It wasn't his career. On the surface, everything seemed fine. His recent films were doing well, critics praised his performances, and fans continued to adore him. Yet, deep inside, emotionally and mentally, he felt drained, the kind of tiredness that no amount of rest could fix. After wrapping a long and exhausting shoot overseas, he had finally returned home. But the place that should have felt like a refuge, his apartment, felt cold and empty. The silence around him was deafening. Days stretched out slowly, without purpose or excitement, and the nights weighed on him with an almost unbearable heaviness. With so much time alone, Keanu began to turn inward, reflecting on his life in a way he hadn't allowed himself to do for a long time. His thoughts wandered to the people who had been important to him, the friends, the family, the loved ones who had shaped his journey. He remembered moments of joy, laughter, and connection. But he also remembered the connections that had faded away with time, slipping through his fingers like sand. He wondered if his own nature had contributed to these losses. He had always been quiet, reserved, hesitant to open up fully. That restraint had helped him survive pain, but perhaps it had also cost him opportunities to truly connect. Was there something he had missed? Some important moment or conversation he had avoided out of fear or uncertainty? As these questions circled in his mind, he found himself longing for something, though he wasn't quite sure what. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was reconciliation. Or simply the warmth of a meaningful conversation with someone who understood him deeply. Then, just as he was sinking further into these thoughts, his phone rang. For a moment, he didn't want to answer. His heart quickened when he saw the caller ID. It was Sandra. The name alone pulled a flood of memories from the recesses of his mind. Memories of laughter on set during Speed, the long conversations they had shared between takes, the easy understanding that passed between them without many words. For a split second he hesitated. What would this call mean? Was it just a casual check-in or something more? Would it open old wounds, or could it heal them? But the curiosity and hope won out, and he swiped to answer. "Hey, Keanu." Sandra's voice came through, warm but tinged with nervousness. "It's been a while, hasn't it?" He smiled softly, feeling a strange sense of relief. "Yeah, it really has." From that moment, the conversation took on a life of its own. They began to talk as if no time had passed, catching up on the years they'd spent apart. Sandra shared stories about her family, her children, and the quiet life she'd embraced away from the spotlight. Keanu told her about his travels, his work, and the struggles he'd kept tucked away from the public eye. But beneath the surface of casual updates, there was something more, a tender vulnerability, a willingness to open old doors that had been shut for too long. They spoke about the past, their time together on Speed, the moments they'd shared, and the feelings neither had fully acknowledged before. Sandra admitted she'd often thought about what might have been between them, how she had admired Keanu, how she'd felt a quiet connection that never quite blossomed. Keanu listened intently, his own heart stirring with memories of his own feelings, feelings he had never dared to express at the time. The conversation wasn't easy. There were pauses filled with emotion, confessions of regrets and hopes. They talked about the barriers they had built, fear, timing, the pain of loss, and how those barriers had kept them apart. But now, years later, they found themselves willing to tear those walls down. For Keanu, this call was more than just reconnecting with an old friend. It was a turning point. After years of carrying silent burdens and emotional exhaustion, this unexpected conversation felt like a lifeline. It reminded him that he didn't have to face everything alone, that reaching out could bring healing and hope. Sandra, too, found comfort in the exchange. She realized that despite the years and distance, the bond they had shared was still alive, quiet but strong. It wasn't about reigniting a romance, but about rediscovering a friendship that had always meant something deep. As the call ended, Keanu felt lighter than he had in a long time. The heaviness that had settled over him began to lift, replaced by a newfound sense of connection and possibility. It was a reminder that life's most meaningful relationships aren't always about grand gestures or perfect timing, but about being brave enough to pick up the phone and say hello. In the days that followed, Keanu found himself reaching out more, to friends, family, and even to himself. He embraced vulnerability in ways he had avoided before, allowing himself to heal and grow. That one phone call, unexpected and simple, became a catalyst for change, reminding him, and all of us, that it's never too late to reconnect, to forgive, and to open our hearts again. "Hey, Keanu. It's been a while, huh?" Those words, simple as they were, held a weight that immediately pulled Keanu Reeves back into a place he hadn't visited in a long time, a place of connection and raw honesty. Sandra's voice on the other end of the line was unmistakably warm, carrying that familiar kindness that had always drawn people to her. Yet beneath that warmth, there was a subtle nervousness, an honest vulnerability that made the moment all the more real and human. It wasn't a rehearsed greeting or a casual check-in. It was the start of something deeply meaningful. Sandra had recently seen an interview he'd done, a rare glimpse of Keanu speaking candidly about his life and the moments he wished he could change. He had talked about how he wished he'd been more open in the past, more willing to share his feelings instead of carrying them alone. That honesty had struck a chord with Sandra, making her reflect on her own life and relationships. It was this reflection that moved her to reach out, to break the silence that had stretched between them for so long. As she spoke, she shared something that stopped Keanu in his tracks. "I always thought you didn't feel the same," she said softly. "But hearing you say it now, I realized we both missed something special." Those words resonated deeply. They were not just about unspoken feelings or missed opportunities. They acknowledged a shared experience. Two people who had quietly cared for each other but had never fully expressed it. The realization that they had both carried the same feelings without knowing it created a bridge across the years of silence. What followed was a conversation that stretched far beyond what either had anticipated. They talked for hours, not just exchanging updates on their lives, but opening windows into their hearts. They laughed together, recalling the lighter moments from their past, the jokes, the spontaneous fun on set, the camaraderie that had once been so effortless. They reminisced about times they had spent together, small moments that held great meaning in hindsight, but their talk wasn't limited to happy memories. They also shared moments of regret and apology, not directed at each other, but at the lost time and missed chances. They expressed sorrow for not reaching out sooner, for allowing years to slip by without communication. Sandra admitted she'd been thinking a lot about the people who truly mattered in her life, the ones she wanted to hold close, and Keanu was at the very top of that list. Throughout their conversation, there was no mention of romance or rekindling, a past relationship. It wasn't about what could have been or what should have been. It was about healing the wounds left by time and silence. It was about reconnecting as two people who had grown and changed, but who still held a deep respect and affection for each other. More than anything, it was about finally saying the things left unsaid for too long. Both had carried unspoken words and feelings like silent burdens, and sharing them aloud was a moment of profound release. For Keanu, in particular, it felt like a weight had been lifted, a burden he hadn't even realized he was carrying. That night, after they hung up, Keanu sat quietly, absorbing the significance of the conversation. The feelings that had once been tangled in regret and hesitation now began to untangle, replaced by a sense of peace and closure. He understood that reconnecting with Sandra was not just about revisiting the past. It was about embracing the present and the future with openness. Sandra felt the same. The call had rekindled a friendship that had quietly endured beneath the surface. It reminded her that meaningful connections don't always need to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes they are soft, steady lights that guide us back to ourselves and to one another. Their renewed bond became a source of strength and comfort. They started checking in more regularly, sharing the simple joys and challenges of daily life. These conversations, free from pressure or expectations, became moments of genuine companionship and support. Their story is a powerful reminder that connection is at the heart of our humanity. It transcends time, distance, and circumstance. It teaches us that even when words are left unsaid for years, there is always hope for reconciliation. True healing begins when we have the courage to speak our truth and to listen with an open heart. Keanu and Sandra's experience resonates far beyond the world of celebrity. It is a universal story of friendship, forgiveness, and the transformative power of honest communication. It shows that healing doesn't require perfection or timing. It only requires the willingness to reach out. For many who hear their story, it serves as an encouragement to look at the relationships in their own lives, those they might have neglected or feared reconnecting with. It's a call to find the courage to bridge the gaps, to say the things that matter, and to cherish the bonds that shape us. In a world that often rushes forward, leaving little time for reflection, their story reminds us to slow down and honor the people who have made a difference in our lives. Sometimes, the most meaningful connections are the ones that survive quietly, waiting for the right moment to bloom again. Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock's story is not just about two famous actors. It's about two human beings who found their way back to each other through honesty, compassion, and a shared willingness to heal. It's a testament to the power of friendship and the enduring magic of second chances. And in the end, that simple phone call was more than just a reconnection. It was a new beginning. That one phone call changed everything for Keanu Reeves. It wasn't an extravagant moment filled with grand declarations or dramatic gestures. Instead, it was simple, a quiet, genuine reconnection that carried the power to ripple through his entire life in ways he hadn't anticipated. For years, Keanu had carried the weight of loneliness, silent regrets, and unspoken emotions. But that single call was a lifeline, a chance to begin healing and rediscover the meaning of true connection. After the call, Keanu began to make more space in his life for the people who mattered. It was as if a veil had been lifted, and suddenly he saw clearly the importance of nurturing relationships, friendships, and bonds that had been neglected or left to wither in the rush of life's demands. He started spending more time with friends he hadn't seen in a while, reconnecting not just out of courtesy but with genuine intent and care. These moments of reunion were not about idle chit-chat or social obligations. They were about deep conversations, shared laughter, and the comfort that comes from knowing someone truly understands you. He also reached out to old co-stars and colleagues, people who had once been close during intense filming schedules but had slowly drifted into the background as their careers moved in different directions. For Keanu, these reconnections weren't just nostalgic, they were healing. They reminded him of the power of shared experiences, the bonds forged through hard work and mutual respect. These renewed friendships brought new light into his life, reminding him that the people who walk beside us, even for a brief moment, leave an imprint on our hearts. In the midst of rebuilding these connections, Keanu quietly began working on a personal side project. It wasn't meant to make headlines or attract attention, but was deeply meaningful to him. This project centered on the theme of second chances, the idea that life offers opportunities to heal, to reconnect, and to find hope even after loss or missed moments. Through this work, Keanu explored his own journey, the mistakes and regrets, the pain and growth. It was a form of self-expression, a creative outlet that helped him process his feelings and offer encouragement to others facing similar struggles. This project symbolized the renewal and the new beginnings that had entered his life since that unexpected phone call. As for Sandra Bullock, their relationship did not shift into romance, and that was never the point. Their bond was stronger than ever, founded on understanding, respect, and genuine affection. There was no need to label their connection with conventional terms, because what they shared transcended that. It was a friendship that had endured time and distance, growing, richer with honesty and openness. Together, they found comfort in the simple truth of being there for each other, no matter the circumstances or expectations. Their story serves as a powerful reminder of what real connection feels like, beyond the superficiality often associated with fame and fortune. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, social media validation, and fleeting attention, it is easy to forget what truly matters. True relationships are built on empathy, trust, vulnerability, and the willingness to show up for one another through life's ups and downs. Keanu and Sandra's renewed friendship illustrates that even in the brightest spotlight, what counts most is the human connection that grounds us. Sometimes it takes just one moment, one act of courage, one phone call, to bring it all back. For Keanu Reeves, that unexpected call from Sandra was a powerful reminder that it's never too late to reach out, to reconnect, and to heal. It's a message that resonates far beyond Hollywood and speaks to the universal human experience. We all carry unspoken words, lost opportunities, and regrets. But within us lies the potential for redemption and renewal. Healing isn't about perfect timing or grand gestures. It's about the willingness to open one's heart, to forgive, and to rebuild. Their story transcends celebrity gossip or romantic speculation. It is about humanity, the brave, quiet moments that shape our lives and define who we are beneath the surface. The greatest stories are often not the ones that play out on movie screens, but the ones lived quietly, courageously, with openness and authenticity. Keanu Reeves's journey is a testament to the power of connection, the strength found in vulnerability, and the hope that no matter what has passed, a new chapter can always begin. Keanu's experience encourages us all to cherish the people in our lives while we still can. It invites us to be brave enough to say what needs to be said, to reach across the distance that separates us, and to nurture the relationships that sustain us. It reminds us that no matter how far apart we may be, the bonds forged by genuine affection and understanding can always find their way back. And most importantly, Keanu and Sandra's story teaches us that it's never too late to begin again. It's never too late to open your heart, to forgive yourself and others, and to embrace the possibility of renewal. Sometimes, the most meaningful moments come not from grand acts but from simple gestures, like a phone call, that remind us of the enduring power of human connection.